Am I the a-hole for suing my ex's children? Hey everyone, I'm a 49-year-old guy, and I've got to tell you about the biggest heartbreak I ever faced. It happened when I discovered that my high school sweetheart, who was also my third wife, had cheated on me. To make matters worse, I found out that her twins, Max and Lily, who were just 2 years old at the time, weren't actually mine. This news just shattered my world. I was in such a state of shock and hurt that I couldn't stay in that situation. Despite being legally considered their father, because they were born while we were married, I just couldn't handle it, and I ended up leaving. What really got to me was having to pay child support. It felt like the system was rewarding my ex for deceiving me, and that just added insult to injury. I decided I wanted nothing to do with the kids, not because it was their fault, but because everything about the situation was too painful. Now, my mom, she's always had a big heart, and she wanted to keep a relationship with Max and Lily. I don't hold that against her, but it did cause some tension between us. At one point, she tried to trick me into a reconciliation with my ex, which really upset me. I felt so betrayed that I stopped talking to her for 6 months. Eventually, we did patch things up, but only after she promised never to betray my trust like that again. I made it clear that if something like that ever happened again, it would be the end of our relationship for good. It was a tough time for sure, and even though things are a bit calmer now, that period left a pretty deep mark on me. Years went by, and I managed to piece my life back together. I met a wonderful woman who saw past all the drama and heartbreak in my history, and we built a beautiful life together. Our marriage was filled with love and mutual respect, a true partnership. We were blessed with two amazing kids, Isabella and Lucas. Sadly, my wife passed away, leaving a huge void in my life, but her memory and the need to be there for our children kept me going. I poured my energy into starting a business, and thankfully, it took off, allowing me to provide a comfortable life for Isabella and Lucas. As time went on, I developed a reputation in the community as a devoted father and a successful businessman. I never boasted about my achievements or personal life. Instead, this image was something that sort of just happened around me, and I always tried to keep it low-key. As for my past with my ex-wife and the twins, I hardly ever spoke about them. Once Max and Lily turned 18, I double-checked with my lawyers to ensure all my legal obligations were met. They confirmed that I was no longer required to pay any child support, which was a relief. It marked the closing of a chapter I had longed to move past from. Living through these experiences shaped me in ways I could never have anticipated. It taught me resilience, the importance of forgiveness, and the ability to move forward, no matter how tough things get. Now, I focus on being the best dad I can be for Isabella and Lucas, honoring the memory of my late wife by continuing to build the life we dreamed of together. When Max and Lily reached out to me after turning 18, they were looking to rekindle some sort of relationship, and also asked for financial help for college. Given our complex history and the deep hurt from the past, I wasn't able to reopen that chapter of my life. I felt that the healthiest choice for me was to maintain my distance, so I informed them clearly that I wished no further contact. To make sure there was no confusion about my stance and obligations, I even had my lawyers send a letter formally stating that I was free of any legal responsibilities to them. However, Max and Lily didn't take this news well, and each reacted in their own way, which led to a series of events that deeply affected my life and business. Max showed up at my place of business, causing a scene by loudly accusing me of being a terrible father who abandoned his children. Lily took to social media to vilify me, damaging my reputation further by encouraging her friends to post negative reviews about my business. This online smear campaign was effective, sadly, and it resulted in me losing a significant contract that would have been very profitable. Faced with these damaging accusations and the direct impact on my professional life, I felt compelled to take legal action. It was a tough decision, but necessary to protect my reputation and livelihood. The lawsuit brought to light that their mother had let them believe all along that I was their father, and, shockingly, my own mother had never corrected this misconception despite knowing the truth. This whole situation has been incredibly painful, not just because of the financial losses and the attack on my reputation, but also because it has stirred up old wounds and complicated feelings about family and identity. Despite the difficulties, I'm trying to navigate this situation with as much grace and firmness as I can, protecting both my personal and professional life from further damage. The situation with Max and Lily reached a point where I felt compelled to reinforce my stance through legal means, especially after their actions had a direct negative impact on my business and personal life. Given the severity of the situation, a second DNA test was conducted to reconfirm that I was not their biological father, which was initially established during my divorce proceedings. This result bolstered my case against them, providing clear evidence to support my claims. Despite the clear evidence, neither Max nor Lily has issued any form of apology for their actions, which have caused considerable stress and financial loss. Their mother, however, recognizing the potential legal repercussions they could face, has pleaded with me to drop the lawsuit. In response, I considered a settlement where she would compensate me for the damages. I suggested a specific amount, hinting that selling her house might cover the cost. Her reaction was to tell me that such an action would leave her and her family homeless. While I understand the gravity of this outcome, it's difficult for me to see it as my responsibility to mitigate the consequences of actions that stemmed directly from her decisions and deceit. The mess they created not only affected my personal peace, but also had tangible repercussions for my business and livelihood. This situation has left me in a tough spot, morally and ethically. On one hand, pursuing the lawsuit could potentially rectify the financial losses and hold them accountable. On the other hand, it could lead to severe outcomes for their family. It's a stark reminder of how deeply entangled and painful family disputes can become, especially when they spill over into legal battles. The path forward isn't clear, and each potential decision comes with significant emotional and ethical weight. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your ex-wife and mother's lies ruined your business and cost of your money. I feel sorry for Jack and Jill, but I question their character since their response to being told no was to try to destroy your life. Agree. Be paid child support for children towards his own for 18 years. I think that he acts as an awful person for doing that to him, along with lying to her own children and inspiring this whole mess. This is the wildest part in my eyes. DNA tests prove they are not your children and you're still legally obligated to support them for 18 years. If any lawyer. See this. Can you please confirm that this can actually happen? Not the a-hole. You pay the child support all the years because he had zero, and they thanked you by ruining everything you've built up. Sue to hell out of the children and teach them they don't get to expect money from someone just because they believe it's their dad. I second this. They could have asked why. Instead, they went nuclear on you. I don't see why you should not go nuclear back. Not the a-hole. Although this is a horrible situation all around. In the end, I will say, though, that the real a-hole is their mother, who should have at some point told them the truth about you. Although I don't think forcing her to sell her house is in anyone's best interest. This is where you become a bit of an asshole. Something like that is only going to cause you further grief. Edit. Seems like the best thing for you is to just not have these people in your life anymore. You're 100% wrong. She literally cheated on him, and as a result had kids. That was it. Tess Sajay took child support payments from him for 18 years, for kids that weren't even his. She could have declined payments like an A person with an ounce of a good heart. He shouldn't have ever had to pay, not a single penny. To top it all off, she made her kids believe that he was a real dad. I honestly believe she deserves every single penny spent and child support's back and then some for emotional damages to his well-being. They destroyed his business and reputation as a result of their mother's poor actions. He's not an asshole for anything. I say, Sue, the mother and the kids hope this man gets the world because this is such a disturbing situation to be in. This is why I wish more women would face criminal charges for false paternity. It's one thing if a man openly accepts a child as his, even if he knows it's not. But to make a man pay for a child, to prove to be fathered by someone else, regardless of marital status, is just evil. It causes imbalances in family planning and paternal destiny. Story 2. Am I the hole for saying I don't care about my sister finally having a kid? Hey, so let me tell you about something that happened to me about 10 years ago. I was 32 at the time, and I was dating this guy named Sean. We were going through some rough patches. Like, things just weren't clicking the way they should in a healthy relationship. My sister, who was always looking out for me, really pushed me to consider breaking up with him because she didn't think we were good for each other. I was on the fence about the whole breakup idea because, it's hard to just let go, even when things aren't perfect. But then, bam, I found out Sean was cheating on me with a woman he worked with. That just sealed the deal for me. Obviously, I ended things with Sean right after that. Here's where it gets even more complicated. My sister had been really supportive during the breakup, almost like a cheerleader for me getting out of that relationship. But then, just 3 months after Sean and I split, I found out that my sister and Sean had started dating. Yeah, you heard that right. I was totally blindsided and honestly felt super betrayed. It's not like I had any lingering feelings for Sean or cared who he dated next, but the whole situation felt off. It wasn't just that my sister started dating my ex, it was how she had been so against our relationship even before knowing he'd cheated. She had been so vocal about him not being right for me, and then suddenly she was with him? It made me question if there was something going on even before the breakup, or if maybe her motives weren't as clear as I thought. That whole experience really shook me because it made me rethink who I could trust and how much I could rely on the people close to me. It was a tough time, not just because of the breakup, but because it changed how I saw my relationship with my sister, too. It really felt like my sister had been waiting to swoop in on Sean, which left a sour taste in my mouth. To make matters even more complicated, she ended up dating Sean, the same guy who had cheated on me. The whole situation felt like a betrayal on multiple levels, not just by Sean, but by my sister, too. It didn't help that the woman Sean cheated with was initially just as shocked and upset as I was, thinking she and Sean were going to be together. The drama was too much for me, and I decided I had enough. That day, I chose to cut ties with my sister. Our relationship broke down completely. I didn't attend her wedding and she wasn't invited to mine. She's never met my two boys. Over the years, I heard through family that she was struggling with fertility issues, but I couldn't bring myself to reach out and offer support. Fast forward to 2 months ago, my parents reached out to me with news that my sister was finally pregnant. They wanted her to invite me to her baby shower, but they talked to me first to help prepare and to encourage me to put the past behind us. They felt it was important for family unity that I consider moving past our old conflicts and start anew. They hoped that with the new baby on the way, it might be a chance for us to mend fences and come together again as a family. It's a lot to process, especially after everything that's happened. I'm torn because part of me wants to maintain the distance that has shielded me from further hurt. But another part of me wonders if it's time to try to heal those wounds. Not just for my sister's sake, but for the whole family's. The idea of potentially reconnecting, even slightly, is daunting, yet there's a sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, it could lead to some positive change. When my parents explained that the baby could be a new beginning for us all, emphasizing how tough the pregnancy had been and describing the child as a miracle baby, they hoped it would soften my stance. They believed that our children deserved the chance to know each other, that these family ties were important. However, I held firm in my decision. I told them plainly that I was not interested in moving forward with the relationship with my sister. The past had left deep scars, and the presence of a new child, while wonderful for her, didn't change the history or the hurt that had been caused. My response disappointed them greatly. They argued that the baby was innocent in all of this, a new member of the family who deserved to be welcomed and loved by all her relatives, including me. They stressed that this wasn't just about my sister and me anymore. It was about more than that. It was about family ties and giving this child a chance to know her extended family. This placed me in a tough position. On one hand, I understood the innocence of the child and the notion of family unity they were pushing for. On the other, I felt the need to protect my own peace and ensure I wasn't stepping back into a situation that had previously caused significant emotional turmoil. It's a complex emotional landscape to navigate, balancing forgiveness and self-preservation, especially when the wounds run deep and the triggers of past betrayals are involved. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole family is blood. Then why didn't they handle her when she did what she did? They are just guilt-tripping here. Exactly. Not stay home, Opie. Next time they come at you with that BS, tell them that they chose her over you. And if they harass you anymore, you'll be to cut them out of your children's lives. And seriously, consider doing this anyway, because family that backs up a woman who steals her sister's man is toxic, and you don't want that around your kids. Part of me suspects the sister and the ex had an emotional affair, at the very least before he cheated with someone else as well, or that they planned it so that they would have an excuse of. But we weren't together when you two were thought. Not the a-hole reproducing should not be used as a get-out-of-jail card. Am I right to assume that the child is also a product of the guy who cheated on you, or did she move on to some other guy? She's still with my ex. That just makes it worse because both of the people who betrayed you were trying to get you to celebrate their betrayal. Because often babies are seen as somehow legitimizing what they did to you. Now, thanks. That definitely solidifies, not the a-hole, not today. Home. Innocent kids are everywhere. There isn't anything special about your sisters. Plus, you can't have a relationship with the kids without a healthy relationship with the parents. And that just doesn't sound like it is feasible, given that you don't seem to have been missing anything about not knowing their kids. I'd say keep on doing things your way. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my mom's engagement ring to my stepbrother because he's not family? Hey, so here's the deal. When I was just 9 years old, my mom passed away, which was super tough on its own. A while after that, my dad decided to remarry, and his new wife already had 3 kids from her previous relationship. Suddenly, I found myself part of this new blended family, which was a huge change for me. One of her kids, Ben, who's a year older than me, ended up sharing my really small and cramped room throughout our teen years. To be honest, we didn't get along at all. It felt like we were always stepping on each other's toes, and there was never enough space just to breathe. So, as you can imagine, it was a massive relief when I moved out to start university. I literally never looked back once I left. Despite moving out, I kept in touch with just two people from my family, my dad and my older brother, who's 35. But even those relationships are kind of strained for a bunch of reasons that have piled up over the years. Basically, it's been a bit rocky, and navigating family stuff hasn't been the easiest. So it's been a while since I've really been around my family, mainly because of how things were handled when I was younger. I've only seen them a few times in recent years. The last time I visited was for my dad's birthday, which was over a month ago. That's when I found out that Ben, my stepbrother, has been dating someone for 5 years, and he's planning to propose to her. During the visit, my dad brought up the idea of giving Ben my mom's engagement ring to use for his proposal. This isn't just any ring. It was originally my grandmother's ring, and it has been passed down in our family. My dad got it when he was planning to propose to my mom, and it's kind of a family tradition to pass it on like this. My dad thought it would be really special to keep this tradition going, especially since I wasn't planning on getting married anytime soon, but I just couldn't agree to it. I told them both no. It's not just because Ben isn't one of my mom's biological kids. That ring holds a lot of sentimental value for me, connected to my mom and my grandma. It represents memories and family history that are deeply personal. Giving it away, especially to someone I've had such a strained relationship with, just doesn't feel right. It's one of the few things I have left of my mom, and it feels important to keep it in our direct family line. The conversation was pretty tough, and I know my decision might have disappointed them, but I had to stand firm on this one. When my dad and Ben pushed for me to give up my mom's engagement ring for Ben's proposal, I had to be clear about my intentions and feelings. I explained that I wanted to keep the ring to possibly propose to a future girlfriend myself. My older brother doesn't plan on getting married, so the responsibility of continuing the family tradition fell to me. This ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it was a symbol of our family lineage and meant to be used by someone directly descended from my mom. I tried to make them understand that this tradition was important to maintain on my mom's side of the family, and it was meant to be passed down through her biological lineage. However, when I shared these reasons, Ben and my dad became pretty upset. They argued that Ben, being my stepbrother and technically part of the family, should also have a right to the tradition. I had to stand my ground and disagreed with their view, stating firmly, no, he's not part of this family tradition. He's the one I had to share a room with by circumstance, but we're not family in the sense that would share such a deeply personal item. I pointed out that the situation would be different if it were my biological brother asking to use the ring, because that would align with the tradition's intent. My brother backed me up on this, agreeing that the ring should stay within our direct family line as originally intended. This disagreement has certainly caused tension, but preserving the integrity of family traditions and respecting the wishes tied to sentimental family heirlooms is something I feel strongly about. It's tough when family dynamics are complicated, but it's important to me that such meaningful decisions reflect the true spirit in which family mementos were intended to be passed down. After explaining my stance about keeping the engagement ring within my direct family line, my dad has backed off the topic. However, Ben and my dad's wife have continued to nudge me about it a few times. They seem to think that giving the ring to Ben would be a significant gesture from me, symbolizing my acceptance of him as family. They view it as a way to bring the family together under a cherished tradition meant to welcome the new generation. Their persistence suggests they believe this gesture could mend bridges and strengthen family ties, especially between Ben and me. Yet, they also argue that it's just a continuation of a family tradition on my mom's side, a tradition I feel strongly should not be altered to include Ben in this specific manner, particularly with such a personal and sentimental item as my mom's engagement ring. It's frustrating because their push overlooks the fact that Ben, while a part of our blended family, does not share the same personal connection to the ring as I do. It was specifically left to my mom's biological children as a way to carry on her legacy. Moreover, Ben isn't in a financial bind where he can't afford an engagement ring. It's more about the symbolic value attached to this particular ring. Their insistence highlights a lack of understanding or respect for the sentimental value and the intended lineage of the heirloom. This has created tension, as it feels like they are trying to impose a new definition of family tradition that diverges from its original intent. My position remains firm. Traditions connected to personal legacies like this should be preserved in the way they were meant to be, especially when they involve such intimate memories and connections. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. not the a-hole at all. Why do these people think they have a right to your property? Is he going to give it back if you wanted to get engaged someday? Let them start their own traditions. Maybe stepmother can give Ben her ring. Ben never had any relationship to Opie's mom. He didn't even know her. I find it so gross to take away the ring from somebody else's dad. Mother at the engagement, the dialogue will be like, Ben, this ring is really special. It belonged to the dad. Mother, fiance, but your mother still lives. Ben never said it was my dead mother. Oh, where's the sentimental value? I guess Ben just don't want to spend money on a new ring. That's just the woman receiving the ring. I would feel guilty knowing I took it away from someone for whom it would have real emotional value. It's creepy to receive the ring of a dead woman who never wanted me to have it, but to intended it for the wife of her son. Creepy, cheap, entitled, not the a-hole. Put that ring under lock and key. I don't trust them. Clear. Not be home. You said it yourself. The ring was meant for either you or your brother. 2 years. Your mom's intentions were clear. Even if you don't plan on getting married, it's a keepsake that was gifted here by your mom, a woman your stepbrother never knew as a parent. It's cruel of your dad to be pushing this when he knows you're planning on using it. They don't have the right to demand to be included in family tradition. Or that means taking something so meaningful away from here. It's your ring to propose with, not of the a-hole. This has nothing to do with your stepbrother or, frankly, your father. The ring was left to you and your brother by your mother, who I assume never even met your stepbrother. So apart from anything else, if he gave it away, you would be following her last wishes. It's very weird how the rest of your family seem to think they can co-opt another family's traditions and possessions simply because your stepmother married your father, who wasn't even part of the family with the tradition until he married into it. Very strange. And honestly, I'd want nothing to do with any of them. Personally, I would sit your father down or write him a letter and reiterate everything you've said previously, but stressed that you will not be changing your mind. Others. And if he continues to push this, then he will damage your relationship further. If he continues to harassing you, then it might be the time for a period of no contact. It's mostly my dad and Ben, but as we have a couple of times. But yeah, I don't get it either. It's a beautiful ring, that's for sure. But I can't see why. Can't buy one of his own. They seem to care that it's a family heirloom and his family. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out of my house and exposing her to the whole family? So, my sister, who's 9 years older than me, just went through something really tough. She's 35, and up until recently, everything seemed perfect for her. She's a doctor, had a beautiful house, and seemed to be living the dream. But then, everything crashed down because of her husband's gambling problem. They lost everything, and I mean everything, and she even got kicked out of her home. Now, in our family, my sister has always been the golden child. My parents totally adore her because she's always done everything right, from her career to her marriage. Well, at least that's what everyone thought until now. So when she came to me totally devastated, crying and begging for a place to stay, I just couldn't turn her away, especially knowing how harsh our parents can be. She also made me promise not to tell our parents about any of this until she figures things out and gets a divorce. So here's where I'm at. My boyfriend and I have this 2-bedroom apartment. There's a guest room, but it's pretty tiny. Then there's my room, which is a lot bigger and has a nice ensuite bathroom with a bathtub, which is a pretty sweet setup. Right now, my boyfriend isn't even here. He's over at his parents' place in Texas, so technically, I've got the whole place to myself. Having my sister move in seemed like the right thing to do. I mean, she was desperate and I had the space. Plus, not involving our parents just yet seemed like a good idea given the circumstances and how judgmental they can be. It's a tricky situation, but I'm trying to help her get back on her feet while keeping our family dynamics as smooth as possible. When my sister moved in, we struck a deal pretty quickly. She'd stay in the guest room and pay a minimal rent to help cover some costs for a few months. At first, everything went smoothly, and it seemed like we had a good arrangement going. However, things got a bit tricky a few weeks later when we encountered some plumbing issues in the apartment. The bathroom in the guest room needed repairs, which gave my sister a reason to use my bathroom. When she discovered I had a bathtub in my ensuite, she was super excited. I hadn't mentioned it before because, well, it's my personal space, and I didn't see the need to share that detail. The repairs were done pretty quickly, within a couple of days, but by then my sister had gotten a taste of the bathtub life, and she loved it. At first, she would ask politely every now and then if she could use it, and I let her, because it seemed harmless enough. But soon, she stopped asking and just started using my bathroom whenever she felt like it. It wasn't long before she began leaving her shampoo and other bath products there, as if it were her own. Then, one day, I came home to find her not just using my bathtub, but actually sleeping in my bed. That was the last straw for me. It felt like my personal space was being completely invaded. I understood she was going through a tough time, but it was starting to affect my own comfort in my home. It was clear we needed to set some new boundaries. Facing my sister in my own bedroom demanding she move into the larger room was surreal. It felt like a bizarre twist where the guest starts dictating the rules. I couldn't believe she was trying to leverage her professional status as a doctor to justify why she deserved the master bedroom in my apartment. Her argument that it wasn't fair, I had a better room, struck me as unreasonable and entitled, especially given her situation and the generosity I'd already shown. I was really upset, not just by her entitlement, but by her audacity to try and rule over my living space. I reminded her firmly that this wasn't just my space. It was also my boyfriend's home, and we had agreed on the arrangements as they were. The confrontation escalated quickly, and I reached my limit. I told her she needed to pack up her things and leave. Her insistence that I was overreacting only fueled my resolve. I knew from past experiences that if I didn't set firm boundaries now, things would only get worse. She protested, saying she had nowhere else to go, hoping perhaps to guilt me into relenting. But I stood my ground, suggesting she finally come clean to our parents about her situation. Reluctantly, she did, and moved back in with them. Now, my parents are upset with me. They think I was too harsh, and that kicking her out forced her to embarrass herself by revealing her true circumstances to them. They even went as far as to say that I owe it to her to let her stay in my house for free for as long as she wants. This has put me in a difficult position, feeling isolated from my family for simply upholding my boundaries and expecting adult responsibilities to be managed by the adult in question.